The message was waiting for me on the bathroom mirror. Not a note. Not a text. Just 7 words drawn in lipstick across the fogged-up glass, still wet from her shower steam. I feel nothing for you anymore. R. She didn't say it to my face. She didn't need to. She knew I'd see it when I stumbled and half awake, rubbing sleep out of my eyes, reaching for my toothbrush like any other miserable Tuesday morning. That's how she chose to say it. In pink smudged letters, over the reflection of the man she stopped loving. I stood there for 5 full minutes, staring at her message, trying to decide what hit harder, the words themselves, or the calm, calculated way she'd left them. Like it was an afterthought. Like telling me our marriage was hollow meant as much as wiping off a countertop. She wasn't even home. Her keys were gone. Her shoes too. But the perfume still hung in the air, that citrus vanilla scent she only wore when she wanted to feel wanted. And the thing is, I didn't scream. I didn't smash anything. I didn't even cry. Because I'd already known. For months, I'd felt it in the way she handed me plates without looking at me. The way her voice dropped an octave every time I said her name. The way she stopped laughing at the jokes she used to finish for me. So no, the message didn't destroy me. But it did unlock something. Something quiet. Something cold. Something patient. Because if Rael wanted to feel nothing, then I would finally give her exactly what she asked for. And more. And she would regret ever writing those words. This isn't a revenge story. Not in the way people expect. I didn't trash her clothes. I didn't call her family. I didn't expose her to the world. That would have given her too much credit, too much feeling. Instead, I vanished in the most agonizing way possible, right in front of her, piece by piece, day by day. I became everything she claimed I was, invisible, empty, gone. But what she didn't know, she had secrets too. And one of them was about to destroy the life she built without me. I didn't reply to the message. I didn't wipe it off the mirror either. I left it there, her lipstick confession hanging above the sink like a headline I was forced to read every day. It became part of my morning routine. Wake up, brush my teeth, look into the eyes of a man she no longer loved. No confrontation. No breakdown. Just quiet acknowledgement. Like a man learning how to breathe in poison. She came home late that night, keys jingling like nothing had changed. I heard her walk in, toss her purse on the hallway table, and open the fridge. She didn't call out to me. She didn't ask about my day. She grabbed a bottle of flavored water, stood there drinking it like she hadn't just carved a hole into my chest that morning, then walked right past me into the bedroom. Not even a glance. I slept in the guest room. Not because she told me to, but because suddenly I couldn't bear the thought of sharing a bed with someone who felt nothing for me. She didn't ask why. Didn't even seem to notice. Maybe she thought I was trying to punish her. But I wasn't. Not yet. That would come later. This was just the beginning. Over the next few days, I stopped speaking unless absolutely necessary. I didn't bring up the message. Didn't ask what it meant. Didn't demand answers. I just vanished, while still being there. It's a weird kind of magic, really, being in the same room with someone and making them feel utterly alone. No more small talk. No more, hey, I'm grabbing groceries, need anything? No more shoulder rubs while she worked on her laptop. No more cleaning up after her, remembering her favorite cereal, putting on that movie she loved just to make her smile. All of it stopped, and for a while, she seemed fine with that. But by the 3rd day, I noticed it, the twitch in her eye when I walked past her and didn't even glance. The way she started talking louder on the phone, like she wanted me to hear her laugh. Like she wanted to remind me she was desirable. Worth attention. Alive. I didn't give her what she wanted. Instead, I watched. Closely. That Friday, I came home earlier than usual. My shift ended 2 hours ahead of schedule due to a machine failure at the plant. I didn't text her. Didn't warn her. I just walked in quietly, like a shadow slipping under a locked door. What I saw when I stepped into the hallway stopped me cold. Rael wasn't alone. She was curled up on the couch, wearing that oversized t-shirt she used to sleep in during our early years, except she wasn't sleeping. She was on a video call with someone. Her voice soft. Her laugh real. The same laugh I hadn't heard in months. But it wasn't for me. Are you sure he doesn't know? The man on the screen asked. She paused, then whispered, he's completely checked out. I don't think he cares anymore. I backed away before I could hear the rest. My heart slammed so hard against my ribs I thought it might snap them. But I didn't confront her. I didn't make a scene. Not yet. I needed more than suspicion. I needed proof. So that weekend, I started looking. Quietly. Carefully. I checked old receipts, online accounts, anything she might have forgotten to delete. I found a second email address, a hidden photo folder, a set of hotel bookings under a fake name. She had been planning this for months. She didn't just fall out of love with me, she'd carefully, deliberately carved out a life behind my back. A life where I didn't exist, where I wasn't even mentioned. And suddenly, it all made sense. Her numbness, her cold detachment, her "I feel nothing" speech. She wasn't numb. She was already somewhere else, with someone else. But what she didn't expect was that I would find everything, quietly, methodically, like a man with nothing left to lose. She wanted to feel nothing? She was about to feel everything, all at once. And I hadn't even started yet. Saturday morning came quiet and strange. The kind of stillness that feels staged, like something was holding its breath. Rael was in the kitchen making herself tea, humming like she hadn't just emotionally gutted me a few days earlier. I stood at the hallway entrance, just far enough behind her that she couldn't see me, and for a moment I just watched her move. She looked light, relaxed, almost happy. I wondered if that version of her still existed for him, the man on the screen. I didn't say a word, just turned around and walked out the front door. I drove around town with no destination in mind. Just needed space, distance, perspective, or maybe just air. I ended up at a coffee shop we used to visit every other Sunday when we still tried. Sat alone, ordered the same vanilla latte she always got, and drank it slowly, hoping it might help me feel something good for the first time in days. It didn't. That afternoon, while she was out, supposedly getting groceries, I went back into detective mode. Her laptop was password protected, but she hadn't thought to log out of her work email on the shared desktop. Rookie mistake. And that's where I struck gold. There were threads, dozens of them, with a name I didn't recognize. A burner email, clearly. But the language was unmistakable. They weren't talking like strangers. These were intimate, raw, familiar. And one thread in particular made my blood run cold. Next week's booked. Room 214. Same hotel. Can't wait to feel like me again. You always bring her back. Her. That was the word she used. As if the real version of herself only existed when I wasn't around. As if I'd somehow dulled her into becoming a ghost. And maybe I had. Or maybe she just rewrote our story in her head to make her betrayal easier to justify. There was more. Photos. Not graphic, but enough. Her in outfits I'd never seen. Her in front of mirrors with hotel wallpaper behind her. Her with wine glasses and candlelight and a smile that had been missing from our house for months. She'd built a romance from our ruins and done it with such surgical precision that I hadn't seen a damn thing. But the worst part? I didn't feel rage. I didn't even feel grief. I just felt hollow. A strange, weightless nothing that scared me more than anger ever could. I wasn't furious. I was detached. Numb, just like she claimed to be. And that's when I realized this was power. She thought she was the only one who could drift away, become invisible, pull the plug on emotion, and walk around like nothing mattered. But now it was my turn. And I would do it better. Cleaner. With control. So I started planning. I made copies of everything. Backed up the emails, saved the pictures, even printed out a few of the more poetic ones, the ones where she talked about how alive she felt with him, how she hadn't laughed like that in years, how she sometimes wondered what it would feel like to just leave me a note and disappear. I read that line 3 times. Then I smiled, because she was about to find out exactly how that felt. But I wasn't going to vanish in the night. That would be too kind. Too easy. No, I was going to build the silence around her until she begged for noise. Until she realized that the man she claimed to feel nothing for had become the loudest absence of her life. I cleaned the house, did the laundry, even folded her sweaters. I smiled when she walked into the room and pretended everything was fine. I gave her casual shoulder touches, asked how her day was, played dumb. I was the perfect husband. Present, patient, predictable. She had no idea that every move I made was a stitch in the shroud I was wrapping around our marriage. And she still hadn't noticed the mirror. I hadn't wiped off her message. Not once. But now, I wrote something just beneath it, in dry soap this time, barely visible unless you looked hard. You will. She hasn't seen it yet. But she will. Sunday morning came with birdsong and fake peace. The kind of morning that could fool you into thinking the world wasn't falling apart. Rael was still asleep when I slipped out of bed. Her breathing was soft. Her face serene. It made me sick to see how calm she looked while I carried this weight inside me, pretending it wasn't crushing my ribs from the inside out. I made breakfast. Her favorite. Toasted sourdough, scrambled eggs with sharp cheddar, and avocado slices laid out the way she liked, fan-shaped, just so. I brewed her coffee, poured mine, and sat across from her as she walked into the kitchen wrapped in the old robe I gave her for our anniversary 3 years ago. She smiled at the plate. Not at me, just at the plate, like the food had made itself. "You're being sweet," she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I just shrugged. Felt like a normal morning. She didn't know that I had already backed up every file, cleaned the evidence trail, and scheduled something for Tuesday that would flip our world upside down. She didn't know that while she ate her eggs, I was timing everything. Every look, every move, every word. Because I had a plan, and she wouldn't see it coming. Later that afternoon, she said she was going to meet up with her friend Tessa. I nodded, told her to have fun. But I knew Tessa had moved to Boston 2 months ago. That lie was so clumsy it almost made me laugh. Almost. She changed into jeans I hadn't seen in a year. Did her makeup carefully. Lip gloss, mascara, not the errands with a friend look. This was for him. I watched from the living room as she checked her reflection in the hallway mirror and smoothed her hair down, totally unaware that I was standing 10 feet away, memorizing every second of her preparation. When the door clicked shut behind her, I moved fast. I knew from her email that the reservation was for 4:30 p.m., room 214. Same hotel she always used. So I went to the closet, opened the safe where we kept important documents, passports, insurance, titles, and removed exactly what I needed. No, I didn't take her jewelry or burn her clothes. That would have been too loud, too juvenile. Instead, I took the spare key to the storage unit she'd forgotten we even had. The one I'd kept for emergencies, and now, this was one. Inside that unit, I'd already set the stage. A single fold-out table, a manila envelope, her old journal from the year we got married, which she thought I'd thrown out, and a flash drive. Everything labeled, everything ordered, everything ready for when I'd send her there next week with a message. You wanted truth. Go find it. But there was one more thing I had to do first. That night, when she came home, I was in the garage, pretending to organize tools. She slipped past me with a small hey, like she'd just gone to Target. No kiss, no curiosity, not even a hint of guilt. That's how good she thought her act was. But the car told me everything. When I checked it later, the passenger seat had been adjusted back, far too much for her short legs. A receipt from a downtown Italian restaurant was tucked into the door, time-stamped 5:03 p.m. There were 2 entrees on it. One red wine, one white. Not even subtle. She was playing house with another man while I was setting up the final chapter of hers. I went back inside and made myself a grilled cheese. Watched half an episode of some mindless sitcom. Laughed in the wrong places. She didn't say much. Just scrolled her phone and occasionally glanced up like she was trying to remember how to be a wife. Before bed, I peeked into the bathroom. The lipstick message was still there. I feel nothing for you anymore. And just beneath it, my faint reply in dry soap. You will. I could see it now, clearer than ever. Her downfall wouldn't come in the form of screaming matches or broken glass. It would arrive quietly. Precisely. When the things she thought she controlled started slipping through her fingers. She wanted a life without me in it. She just didn't expect I'd leave without slamming the door. Monday came and went like a stretched-out shadow. Rael moved through the house as if everything was fine, as if her lipstick on the mirror hadn't turned into a monument to indifference. But I had already detached myself so thoroughly from the version of me she used to know. She couldn't see that I'd already started leaving. Not physically, no. That part was still to come. But emotionally, mentally, I was already gone. And she was starting to feel it, even if she didn't understand why. She tried to test the waters that night. She lingered a little longer in the doorway of the living room. Made a comment about a show we used to watch together. Something about missing the old days when we'd order takeout and fall asleep with the TV still on. I looked up from the crossword puzzle I wasn't even solving and said, yeah, those were easy days, before going back to my pen. No smile, no softness, just facts. And for the first time, her face twitched with something other than smug detachment. It wasn't guilt. Not yet. But it was doubt. She wasn't sure who I was anymore. And that was perfect. What she didn't know was that every detail had already been arranged. I had moved enough savings into a private account to last me 6 months. Rerouted my paycheck. Rented a studio loft on the edge of town. Nothing fancy, just space to breathe. I told the landlord I needed it ready by Thursday. She didn't ask questions. just handed me the keys. The idea wasn't to punish Rael. It wasn't even about justice. I had long since given up on the idea that people like her ever really learn. No, what I wanted was precision. I wanted to leave her in a silence so wide, so full of unanswered questions, that it would scream louder than anything I could say. Tuesday morning, she made pancakes. It was an odd gesture, not her style anymore. She hadn't cooked for me in over 6 months, and suddenly she was flipping flapjacks like it was our anniversary. I walked into the kitchen and stared at the plate she'd made me. Butter, syrup, even a little powdered sugar on top. The presentation was ridiculous. She was trying to bring warmth back into a space she'd frozen solid. "I thought you might want a nice start to your day," she said, carefully. Her voice sounded rehearsed. I nodded, sat down, and started eating. No compliments. No thank you. Just quiet chewing. And then I got up halfway through, rinsed my plate, and left for work early. The silence behind me was thick, heavier than the scent of burnt sugar that hung in the air. At lunch, I pulled out my phone and scheduled the delivery of the storage unit access code and instructions. I typed the message carefully. "If you want the truth, it's waiting for you. Room 214 is just a piece of it. The rest is what you left behind." Then I saved it in drafts. I'd send it when the timing was right. But the real crack came that night. She came into the bedroom with wine, her defense drink, and asked if we could talk. I let her sit beside me. Let her start unraveling her version of honesty. "I know I've been distant," she began. I've been confused. And I didn't mean what I said about not feeling anything. I think I just felt disconnected." I didn't interrupt. Just watched her, silently. "I still care about you," she added, watching me for a flicker of emotion. "I just got lost for a while." And then, like it was supposed to fix everything, she reached out and touched my hand. A soft, hesitant press of her fingers against mine. I didn't pull away. I just looked her in the eyes and said, very gently, "It's okay. You don't have to explain. You were clear the first time." Her lips parted like she was about to protest, but then she stopped. Something in my tone shut it all down. Because for the first time, Rael understood that I wasn't confused anymore. I wasn't chasing her, waiting for scraps. I wasn't clinging to a future she'd already destroyed. I had made peace with her absence. I had buried the version of myself that begged for love. And now, what stood in front of her was someone she didn't know how to manipulate anymore. The following morning, she found the mirror clean. I had finally wiped away her message. Not because I'd forgiven her, but because I no longer needed a reminder of what she'd said. Now she needed the reminder. And she was about to receive one that would haunt her for years. Wednesday morning felt different. Not for me. I had already crossed the emotional finish line days ago. But for her. The house was too quiet, even for us. There was this heavy awareness in the air, like she could sense the current had shifted beneath her feet and she didn't know how deep the water went. She lingered near me more than usual, watching me sip coffee like it might give her answers, like she was trying to read between my breaths. But I said nothing, did nothing, gave her nothing. She kept glancing at the bathroom mirror all morning, expecting something. A word, a message, maybe even a new cruel reply. But I had cleaned it spotless, left it blank. And that blankness did what I couldn't have done with 1,000 angry sentences. It made her wonder. That was when the game truly changed. At 1:03 p.m., I sent the message. It wasn't dramatic. No insults. No rage. Just a timestamp, an address, and a sentence. "Everything you've been hiding, everything you've forgotten, is waiting for you. You wanted the truth? It's waiting in Unit 318. She read it within seconds. I watched the message change to read on my screen and then put my phone face down. Didn't check for a reply. Didn't care. Because I knew she'd go. She couldn't help herself. Curiosity is louder than guilt. Stronger than pride. And nothing scares a liar more than not knowing how much the other person knows. She left the house 20 minutes later. Didn't say where she was going. Didn't ask if I'd be home for dinner. Just grabbed her keys with shaky fingers and drove off. I waited 5 minutes, then got in my own car and drove a different direction. I didn't need to be there to watch her unravel. I had already laid every brick in that path. Inside that storage unit, she'd find more than the emails and the photos. I'd included every journal entry she wrote during our engagement. Every napkin poem she thought I'd tossed. The love letters she wrote me from college when we were long distance and couldn't afford airfare. I placed them on the table beside the newer evidence, cold, digital, timestamped betrayal. I wanted her to see the distance. To feel the contrast between the girl who once called me her entire sky and the woman who erased me for a man who only existed in hotels. And the best part? I didn't tell her what I'd done with the copies. Because, of course, I hadn't left the originals there. I had sent a separate, more delicate package to a place she never expected, her mother's house. Rael's mom, Colette, adored me. She always said I was the only man who ever slowed Rael down long enough to see the world clearly. We hadn't spoken in months. But I mailed the envelope with no return name, just a simple message on top. Ask your daughter who she became. I don't know what hit her first, the storage unit or the call from her mom. But I know she came home in pieces. She walked in the front door like she was dragging invisible weights. Her face pale, her shoulders slumped, like the foundation had cracked and she didn't know where to step. She looked around the house like it might give her comfort, but all she found was that same cold emptiness she had gifted me weeks ago. She sat on the edge of the couch, didn't speak for a long time. Then finally, in the quietest voice I've ever heard her use, she said, "Why didn't you yell at me? Why didn't you scream, or leave, or do something?" I stood in the doorway and said, "Because that would have made it about me. And I wanted this part to be all yours." That was it. No raised voices. No accusations. Just truth in its most haunting form. Silence that said everything she didn't want to hear. She cried that night. Alone. In the same bed we used to share. I heard it from the hallway, muffled sobs pressed into a pillow, like she was trying to suffocate the consequences. I didn't go in. I didn't hold her. I didn't comfort her. She wanted to feel nothing. But now she was drowning in everything she once denied. She didn't speak to me for 2 days after the storage unit. Not one word. Not even a good morning or pass the salt. I didn't expect her to. I knew what that kind of silence meant. It wasn't strength, it was a woman trying to sew herself back together with shaking hands. Every corner of the house now held a ghost. She couldn't walk past the hall without thinking of the mirror. Couldn't open the closet without remembering what I'd removed. Couldn't look me in the eye without seeing who I used to be. And I could see her starting to feel it, really feel it. That same hollow space she once claimed to live in was now real. Tangible. Except this time, she was the one left in the cold. I didn't slam any doors. Didn't pack my bags in front of her. I just faded, but not without leaving a final note of my own. Thursday evening, I printed out 2 pieces of paper. One was a letter. The other, a timeline. On it, I'd listed the major events of our life side by side with the major events of her affair. I made no accusations, just put facts beside feelings. Like comparing poetry to police reports. On the left, July 14th, our anniversary dinner, the last time she held my hand in public. On the right, July 15th, hotel room 214, same man, second visit. I left both pages on the kitchen counter beside a cup of tea. Her favorite blend, peppermint chamomile. She used to drink it when she felt overwhelmed. I watched from the hallway as she came in, noticed the papers, froze, then sat down like someone had removed all the bones from her body. I didn't go in. I didn't need to. I'd said everything without saying anything. She read the letter 3 times. Her hands trembled. Her eyes blurred. I saw her mouth the words aloud like she couldn't believe they were real. I never wanted revenge. I wanted truth. You handed me silence, and I held it until it turned to steel. Now it's yours. She didn't cry. Not right away. But later that night, I woke up to the sound of drawers opening. The rustle of papers. The soft hum of her voice as she called someone, her mom, I think. Whispering apologies that came too late to matter. The next morning, I made my move. I didn't announce it. I didn't leave a dramatic note. I just took the keys to the loft I'd rented, packed my essentials, and slipped out before sunrise. I left behind a marriage certificate, my wedding ring in its original box, and a stack of photographs from our happiest days. On top, I left a single sentence written in my plain, careful handwriting. You said you felt nothing. This is what that looks like. I didn't even take my phone with me. I'd already transferred my number to a new one. New contacts. New start. She couldn't trace me unless I wanted to be found. And I didn't. Not for a long time. Maybe not ever. When she woke up to an empty house, I imagined she thought I was out for errands. Maybe at work. But the hours would stretch. The silence would return. And this time, it wouldn't be staged. It would be real. Because the thing is, people like her don't expect consequences. They expect closure. They expect you to yell, cry, shatter dishes, and then stay so they can feel better about leaving later. But I gave her none of that. Just stillness. Just space. Just the vacuum where I used to be. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want to ruin her. I just wanted her to finally understand what nothing truly felt like. And the worst part? I think she did. A week passed before I finally checked the voicemail. Not because I was tempted. Honestly, I wasn't. But because I needed to know how far the echo had traveled. How long it had taken for the absence to settle deep enough for her to finally feel the shape of what she'd lost. 23 missed calls. 11 voicemails. And not one of them sounded like the woman who'd once scrawled, "I feel nothing for you anymore," across our mirror like it was a punchline. The messages started cold, like she was trying to stay in control. "I don't know what this game is, Oren. If you want to talk, talk." Then they softened. "Can we please just sit down? You know me. You know I never meant for it to go this far." Then came the ones with tears. The shaking in her voice. The admissions. "I thought I didn't feel anything, but I was wrong. You were the only real thing in my life, and I destroyed it. I didn't know what I was asking for until I finally got it. I feel everything now, and it's unbearable." But I didn't call back, because by then, I was no longer the version of myself who waited for apologies that never came, or held out hope that the damage could still be undone. I wasn't the man she quietly erased. I was someone entirely new, someone who had finally chosen himself. The studio loft wasn't much: bare walls, noisy pipes, a bed that creaked if you so much as looked at it wrong, but it felt like mine. The air was different. I could hear my own thoughts again. I started sleeping through the night for the first time in years. I read books without distraction. I cooked simple meals and left the dishes in the sink without guilt. I lit candles. I listened to jazz. I laughed once, really laughed, at something stupid on TV. And I caught myself smiling. Not because of anyone. Not for anyone. Just because I could. One day, I took a walk by the lake near the edge of town. The same place where Rael and I had once slow danced in the grass during a summer picnic. Back then, I thought that moment was the beginning of something sacred. But standing there now, wind cutting across my skin, I realized it had just been a snapshot. A soft frame in a larger, Messier picture. And it was okay to let it go. As I stood at the water's edge, I felt the sun on my face and a strange sense of stillness in my chest. Not emptiness, not grief. Peace. The kind I thought I'd never get back. The kind I didn't think I deserved. But I did. I got a job offer the next week. Small firm in the next county, managing logistics for a startup. Better hours. A team that actually respects time off. I said yes without hesitating. For the first time, every decision was mine. No need for permission, or negotiation, or compromise that only ever bent in one direction. Rael never stopped calling. Eventually, I blocked the number. Because some stories don't need sequels. The truth is, she taught me the most important lesson of my life. When someone tells you they feel nothing for you, believe them, but don't become nothing because of it. Step out of the silence. Reclaim your voice. And when you do, don't shout back. Just leave. Because sometimes, the loudest thing you can do is choose joy. And I did. I chose it every morning after that. And I'll keep choosing it. Again and again. That's the real ending. Not revenge. Not bitterness. Just a quiet return to myself. And it's more than enough.